Thank you for being here, and thank you panelists for joining us today. Since afternoon we are hearing a lot of aspects of this topic around mobile security. Now we are going to double click certain aspects around the coordination and the global perspective around it. And I think this is the best panel we can have to discuss all those perspectives coming from the law enforcement side, civil society side, the telecom association, and the platforms like Google. So probably we are going to have a very diverse perspective coming in. But just to set the context, right now we are sitting at a very different, I'll say, inflection point where technology we are seeing as a strategic, contested, and a deeply geopolitical matter of concern. And a lot of, I'll say, macro shifts which are happening from typically tech globalization to now tech nationalism which is happening, which is also reflecting in various the norms, regulations at the national level. Innovation-led ecosystem to becoming security-focused, concerned innovation perspective which is evolving. And policy discussions are also transforming towards more action-oriented. Because now, those golden hours are converting to golden minutes probably in terms of fraud prevention and all. And those are the perspectives which probably we are going to deliberate here. And here is question is not whether we have to adopt the technology or not, but when we have to adopt those technologies, how can we scale with the safety security matters considered in place. Now coming to specifically the mobile security perspective. This is intersection of, I'll say, technology, economic perspective, and the geopolitics as we are talking about. And the mobile threats are actually becoming more like a cross-border things where you can consider it as a, I'll say, cross-border supply chain kind of a thing of that attack, where adversaries are leveraging various gaps present in the cross-border jurisdictions kind of matter or different regulations, different level of preparedness at the country's level, and those kind of things are being leveraged by them. And when technologies like AI, ML, and all those things are further adding on top of it, it's further adding to the complexity. Different use cases, modus operandis are coming in. Having all those diverse set of perspective in place, countries like in India, we are taking a lot of steps, and especially kudos to I4C, Rajesh sir is here, where his team and his leadership, we have seen a lot of transformations, whether it's a 1930 kind of a thing or CFRMS kind of initiatives where banking sector coming up with the law enforcement and curbing the crime. Those kind of initiatives are being taken care. And that is resulting in a big way. But I'll start with certain questions, and I'll start with you, Rajesh sir. Many of those crimes and the frauds which are emerging, many of them are global in nature, cross-border in nature. How do you observe these new modus operandis emerging, and what are the challenges at the international level, what you're facing from the point of view of a law enforcement agency or to curb it?
Very good afternoon, and thank you so much, DSCI and Atul and Google for providing me with this platform to have a conversation with people who are into the mobiles ecosystem. Now, coming to the question that you just spoke about, yes, cybercrime has globalized, and it has globalized in multiple sense. We say that there are generally 4 major components which are used to commit any kind of a cybercrime. One is the human component. The second is the telecommunication network, which is used to make contact. The third is the financial channel, where the banks, the fintech entities, they are used to launder the crime or take the crime proceeds away. And the fourth is the internet, the IT intermediaries as we call, or the ESPs as they are referred to in Europe, the electronic service providers. So these are the 4 components which are used for cybercrime. One by one, let us see how they are connected internationally. So when you look at the human component, around 75 to 80% of the money that we are losing in this country, we are losing it to people who are operating from abroad, largely Southeast Asia, Middle East, and Africa. So there are scam compounds, the famous scam compounds in Southeast Asian countries, largely Cambodia, Myanmar. These are the countries from which we are seeing a lot of things happening. Some are in the Gulf, the GCC countries also, we are seeing some scams operating. And of course, the traditional 419 scheme coming from the Western Africa. So these are the places. The difference what has happened this time around is in Southeast Asia, it are Indians who are the foot soldiers of the scam compounds. And the leadership belongs to our neighbor. In in Africa, largely the locals are doing this. In the Middle East, it's a combination. We have Indians, we have people from multiple other nationalities. Coming to telecom, largely Indian SIM cards are used. Indian SIM boxes are used. Signal boxes are used. But once in a while, we see SIM cards from other countries as well. Recently, or a year and a half back rather, not recently, the Department of Telecom introduced the CIOR, the International Out Roaming Registry. And let me congratulate the department because that led to a lot of decline in usage of foreign numbers to commit cyber offenses in India. So CIOR has been very effective. Number 3 was the financial channels. Now when you talk about the financial channels, yes, mostly the layer 0 and the layer 1 account would be an Indian account. The layer 0 is the victim for us. He just referred to as CFCF-RMS. So CFCF-RMS is a unique in the sense that it brings all fintech entities, not only fintechs, any kind of financial entity. So you have banks, we have wallets, e-commerce platforms, we have TPAPs, then what else? Cooperative banks, regional rural banks. So we have around 11,994, I think, till last count. Entities who are working with us continuously, they are on our platform, and 59 of them are through API integrations with us. So there is no manual intervention. So we trace the money. We actually trace the money from where it was lost to where it has finally exited the system. So what we see, that gives us the data of who is getting involved, how is the money going out. We are seeing a lot of money goes out in the form of cash withdrawals from ATMs and through bank branches. But these money gets converted into cryptocurrencies. So we see a lot of wallet loading there, purchases of crypto which are not explained otherwise as reported to the FIU. And then we also see of transactions directly going outside the country. So you will have fraud happening today in New Delhi, and within 15 minutes, somebody in the previous session spoke about gold. You spoke about golden hours, and there are no hours now. We are all minutes, it's just minutes. So you will see that you lost money in Delhi and it was withdrawn in 5 minutes in Kazakhstan or UAE or Singapore or some other part of the world. Now, that brings you to the other part of the question that you said, that is what necessitates international cooperation. So even in the financial, even when we have all these 1,194 entities, which are mostly Indians, except for a few foreign banks, we see that the crime proceeds are moving outside the country. So international cooperation is required because there is somebody walking up to the bank and getting it in cash, walking up to an ATM in Dubai and getting in cash. So there is a foreign element there. And the fourth component that I spoke about were the IT intermediaries, including Google, where IT resources are used to host malicious URLs, apps, VPNs, VPSs. We see a lot of our communication, if you see, a lot of our calls which come will show you that the call is coming from an IP in Mumbai, but actually it will be coming from someone in South Asia. So IT resources, something in the Play Store. Google, we have worked with Google a lot, and in fact now they have almost cleaned up their Play Store of all these fraudulent loan apps and fraudulent investment apps. So this is how the 4 components are used, and in all the 4 components you will have international other country connections. So fighting alone, any country fighting alone is not going to be successful.
Sure, thanks for covering. Yeah, quite a interesting one actually. Thanks. So I'll just request you to you are taking so many initiatives actually. Any particular initiative around mobile security would you like to talk about? Like you have taken this CFRMS kind of
Yes.
initiative.
So CFCF RMS is connecting all the entities. So that enables automatic escalation of a complaint. It is a financial fraud kill chain, as we call it. So we chase the money, trace it. If it is there, put it on hold. If it is not there, reveal the path, act on the path in the form of mule accounts, crack down on the suspects, and so on. One recent something which we have done and which we do with Google as well is that we share malware signatures. So now we are working with banks to share these malware signatures, the IDs, as soon as possible, so that because many of the banks have these mobile apps installed in the phones. So we use the RASP feature, which the Android provides, so that the app knows what other malicious. So the banking app will know that an app which is malicious and has been flagged by I4C is there in your. So it will alert and it will prompt you to remove that malicious app. We have been working with, we started with IDFC first. We found 39,000 such. We have till now shared around 1600 signatures. So 39,000 of the mobiles were affected, and IDFC Fox is not a big bank. We are working with SBI. So SBI Yono 2, when it comes, you will see a much more larger customer base which will be affected. So the idea is simple. We get 8,000 to 9,000 complaints. Many of these complaints are related to malwares. Identify the malware, analyze it, and immediately share to all your partners. Our partners are any person who is in the app ecosystem, so that they protect their customers against malicious behavior. So in short, that is something we are doing. Once we roll out with the PSU banks, we are hoping to roll it out with SBI very soon. It will really start giving results.
Perfect. That's a great example of public-private partnership as industry, government, and other industry members are coming together and solving that larger challenge that we are facing. I'll again come back. You have opened a lot of threads, and I'll come back to you on that part further. But I'll come to you, Debashish. See, telecom ecosystem sit at the center of the many mobile threat vectors that emerge, right? And entities like GSMA is enabling that cross-border collaboration among telecom providers, and a lot of initiatives you guys are taking. How is the GSMA enabling the cooperation and the cross-border enablement to protect this kind of crime? Could be then threat information sharing, or it could be some sort of fraud coordination, the fraud investigation, and all those kind of things. What are the challenges you are facing in that enablement, and what kind of initiatives that you are taking in?
Good evening, everyone. You have to excuse me for my voice. It's a little hoarse today, slightly under the weather. Thank you for the question. So, I think we all know by now that telecom is the bedrock of digital infrastructure, not just for limited to communication services, but also for all the other digital services that we use today, and the number of digital services are only going to increase every month as we see as India progresses in the digital Digital India mission. So. GSMA as an international body which works with 1,000 plus ecosystem players, I think we are beautifully placed at the intersection of technology, policy, as well as the mobile ecosystem, which is the industry. So we play a crucial role, and there are several initiatives which I can talk about. So I'll be brief. One of them is, we have various working groups, right? So fraud and securities group is one of the working groups, which is known for, sharing the global threat intelligence, right? Which talks about all your fraud patterns, your, other data sharing models, best practices which are being shared. So that operators exchange insights on emerging fraud patterns and attack vectors, and also the mitigation approaches. We also drive common frameworks, and basic guidelines for messaging security, identity, and network level protections. Another key initiative which started recently, not that recently, but has gained a lot of momentum is the GSMA Open Gateway initiative, which is focused on open APIs, right? And the API term is not new in the IT world, but is getting a lot of momentum and traction in the telecom world, and it's all about standardizing these APIs so that. See, standardization is very simple if you look at it this way, that it has to be seen from a perspective of shared incentives and alignment rather than looking at imposed uniformity. So if you look at that kind of approach as far as standardization is concerned, then it helps. You spoke about limitations. I think Rajesh ji just spoke about it's not about hours and it's about minutes now, and I'll come to seconds. So the limitation is that most of this data is not shared real time, right? One, and the way people are aligned, the operators or the ecosystem players, it is dependent on voluntary participation. So once we address these, I think it will be much easier. I'll talk about the other initiatives which GSMA has started on these.
Sure, thanks. And on this voluntary perspective, I'll double click this. Maybe in the next round we'll have a limited time, but we'll try to cover that aspect as well. So we have heard a government perspective and a law enforcement perspective from the Association Telecom Association perspective. Now let me go to you, Aditi. From the platform point of view, which is again often many of the primary interface through which attacks are happening revolves around those platforms. From the Android security perspective, which category of threats are the most difficult to address through platform level interventions alone, if you can talk about that perspective?
Thank you so much, sir, first of all, for coming here, being a part of this. It's really an honor to speak with you. Especially when we speak with MHA, IFOC, I think we get so many perspectives. And it's just so on point, and then you're able to map everything together. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to work with you and collaborate. See, I think there are many, many categories, of course. And probably if we get into that, it's going to be not innumerable, right? But I can just talk about two which we have noticed and which are top of mind for us of late. One is when you look at one category of threat could be that lies beyond a technical control sometimes, right? It's because of how human nature itself involves, and there are many complexities associated with it. It's very human-centric, and it goes, it's not restricted to a particular geographical boundary. It cuts across, different countries. And we would call it a social engineering scam. And the second one is, of course, site loading, which we have been, which Sir also agrees, DOT, we've been having multiple conversations with different departments, different organizations, and that is another one. So going to the first one, which is a social engineering scam, there were times when we would get very specific inputs about, okay, there's an OTP fraud or there is XYZ. So we could at least take an action. We could probably build some sort of walls and boundaries and say, okay, fine, we've solved it, not a problem. But with social engineering scams, what we realize is that it plays on the human mind, human psychology. Dave talked about it earlier. So there's really not this. You really have to be very creative in understanding how do you not let these bad actors bypass all the security protocols that you have. And I think, admittedly, it's a tough one. So one very good way in which we've done that, but we are still working on it. In fact, recently we also spoke on digital arrests. A particular government, vertical government organization also called us. There's a committee in Supreme Court also that's looking to digital arrest, and they asked us, and along with other video, other platforms, communication platforms, like where you can make video calls, as to how can you prevent people? Where can you introduce speed bumps into? When they talk and they get so mesmerized and they get carried away, how can you make, put stops? Of course, for communication channel platforms, they have their own ways of doing it, probably introducing timers, pauses, etc. And how we thought of it was that we try to analyze different ways in which a user gets to talk, right? So let's say you get a phone call. That's the first vector. Where does the information start coming to the user? The first part would be a phone call. So how do you intervene there? And through our, one way could be through introducing AI based scam detection methods on call. And that's something that we deployed. And I think, and again, in that also, you require a lot of training, right? You require engineering training, you require to have the right data sets. In some countries also, it is successful because sometimes we end up getting more data sets. It depends on your speech patterns, talk patterns, right? Indian accent could be different from an accent in any other country, right? So all of that has to be taken into account to prevent this. The second one, again, I'll keep it short. The second one was sideloading, which is a problem. Problem because when we fundamentally started as a Android OS, we of course believe it's an open ecosystem. We want you to have access to information, right? But eventually, when you realize bad actors start, kind of gaming the system, what do you do, right? Where do you create that balance? And so we started noticing that through the side-loaded walls, the kind of malware that penetrates into your ecosystem is 50 times more as compared to what it would do when you're probably operating via a very secure app store, right? And that is another one which we have been really working on. And we introduced a number of pilots, which we can talk about later, touch upon it. A number of other solutions also that are upcoming, that are already there and are upcoming to take care of and address these issues.
Sure, Aditi. Thanks for sharing this. And here comes trust at the ecosystem at large.
Right, sir. Thank you. I'm Arpita. I head the Research and Communications Division at Digital Empowerment Foundation. And, sir, civil society, I think, is that trusted bridge between governments, industries, and platforms, because we are closely working with communities and seeing what actually is happening in the ground. As in, when we say users, these are citizens, and they come with very different socio-cultural routings. And in the current digital landscape, when we talk about this information landscape, we talk about the financial landscape, all the perils that we see in the digital ecosystem, right? They impact communities very differently because they're all rooted, all this misinformation, financial frauds are rooted socio-culturally. So for us, as a civil society organization, we really believe and firmly think that a phygital design always helps tackle these solutions that we are talking about. When we say human-centric, we have to also look at, say, mobile, not just as digital infrastructure, but as a social infrastructure, which enables access at the core of all of these issues that we are trying to tackle, sir. That's one. Second is, when you talk about cross-border frauds, like for rural citizens who are 65% of India, right, they don't perceive it as a systemic failure because we are grappling with the changes in seconds. And the rural citizens who are in low literacy settings are much behind, are dealing with very fundamental questions of digital divide, lack of meaningful access, enabling, like when we talk about DPI also, of course, there are digital systems seamlessly interacting with each other. But without meaningful access, how will they benefit from the DPI? So I'll always focus on the foundational questions here and say that citizens, rural citizens, perceive it as a personal breach most times. And that's why, so in DF, for example, we have an extensive media and information literacy program. We do digital financial literacy, and we have a network of 2,400 community information resource centers where rural women themselves lead these centers. Think of CSC, Common Service Centers. Think of it as an extension of common service centers. These centers become sites of capacity building, learning, engaging critically with these subjects. And Suchnapreneurs actually is the word we use for the rural women who run these centers. If you break that term as information entrepreneurs, information trustees, infomediaries who become rural fact checkers themselves. And this has been a very successful program. DF has traveled the journey of India since internet came 30 years back, and we have been part of designing CSC, we've been part of designing NDLM, and PM Vani, and more, sir. So all our learnings inform that we should have more phygital models of tackling these issues at hand. Thank you.
Perfect. So, as I see only 10 minutes are left, probably in the next round of questions or interventions, I'll request you to cover the solutioning part of that. We have understood a lot of challenges are there and some case studies and action items that we have already taken. And I'll have a double click on one aspect. On the rural side, sometimes the policy design and the user experience, there is a gap. Right, couple of things that you have already talked about. Where do you see the most significant disconnect from the mobile security perspective that's happening?
So that's of course, an elaborate answer is required for that. But I think to be precise, one, of course, language at the heart of it. India is so diverse, so culturally diverse. We have to ensure that all the security protocols, warnings, or consent mechanisms are more understandable, relatable. That is definitely one. Second is all the platform designs or interface designs are built on probably a premise of an informed citizen. So there, I mean, I think we should change the method. I think relook at the methodology. That is it catering to people who say are not in stable connectivity regions, and then the questions go up, like step up. Like first is connectivity, and then we go step by step of whether when we talk about mobile, what is the status of shared mobile ownership in rural India. So yeah, if we look at those criteria, if they become criteria for the platforms, then probably we'll be able to tackle them from its roots.
Sure. Thanks. And I'll come to you, Rajesh sir, here. You have talked about these call center frauds happening from outside India, having Indian citizen and otherwise as well. And even on that front, you have done a lot of work and a lot of call centers got burst in ASEAN nations and all those places. Here, the coordination with the international counterparts became a major element, whether it's Interpol or some bilateral arrangements. Earlier, it's like, or even MLATs kind of a thing. But we have seen some practical challenges around that, the pace and otherwise as well, information sharing. What do you think, what could be a mechanism to address those challenges? And how can we effectively, as we said, like a golden hour to golden minutes, right, how can we quickly address those challenges?
Yes, the world has realized that working in silos and depending only on MLATs has not been working. Yeah. And something as rapid as cross-border laundering of crime proceeds taking place in minutes, we cannot rely on this. So this realization has led to the UN Convention Against Cybercrime. So if you are looking at what's happening around, more than 72 countries have already signed that. And it opened in Hanoi, and now India is also, we are also evaluating, and we were party to all the rounds of discussions. So the world understands that international cooperation for fighting cyber crime is inevitable. Traditional routes, even the Interpol routes, are inadequate. I still say that we have to, still we are working on the internet, Interpol, but we have to have real-time 24/7 communications between countries, which the convention actually provides. Right. So no MLAT, real-time assistance for all kind of assistance. It can be for information, or it can be taking some action or tracing flow of funds, child sexual abuse, CSAM, and so on. So this is already inbuilt, and some other informal channels, groupings have already started. There is one, something called the Supreme Plus, Thailand, from Thailand, that is working. And, communication happens, sorry Google, it happens on WhatsApp most of the time. So there are countries which are exchanging information on WhatsApp, which was unthinkable earlier, which used to go through a lot of, because people realize that this information, if I give it to another country, then they can put a good use to it. If that country needs to intervene, they can intervene. So you spoke about signal sharing, right? So signal sharing about, say, a telecom selector, a phone number which is calling from with a +44 number, which that number will scam not only Indians or the Brits, they will also be scamming people in China, right, or Pakistan, or rest of the
Everybody's
world.
Challenge.
So it is of importance that +44 number immediately gets flagged. Which again brings to the issue that he highlighted, is that the sharing is not happening real time. So one of my asks would be, yes, within the industry, each player has a set of, identifiers. So let us break the silos within the industry nationally, and then we can start breaking it internationally. I mean, I know some other alliances are also there. Google also supports one alliance.
Right.
So international cooperation is extremely important. One thing I would like to add, how we have started working with iGrip, which is called the Interpol Global Rapid Intervention of Payments. Right. So now we are also connected to other countries through the iGrip bridge. So if, for example, money is going out of India, say it has gone to Hong Kong. So immediately, iGrip, the CBI, which is the node for Interpol in India, it will immediately inform Hong Kong or Singapore that, look, this bank account has received crime proceeds. We have actually been successful in using the Egmont channel as well, which the FIU operates. So without international cooperation, we are not moving forward.
So that's interesting, actually. And here, I would love to hear from you, like where we can, as DSCI, can contribute, and we can bring the industry together to support those kind of initiatives. We'll be more than happy to support on that front. If you have anything in mind, please do let us know on that front as well. Though we are collaborating on various fronts already.
So one thing that we always look up to DSCI is in education. Right? Yeah. Is in education. We would actually request DSCI to help us create a supply of cybersecurity professionals in the country. Let cybersecurity profession, education be highly rated. People look forward to working, having careers in these domains, so that we are able to further improve our cybersecurity posture. We have guidelines in place. We have regulations in place, which every entity, we have the various rules in place of all the entities who are handling personal data, or who are even handling IT systems, they should put in place. Now, to ensure that those systems are there, they're up, running, maintained, we might not be having the kind of workforce that we would desire. And therefore, we need to create that supply. So this is one area when with DSCI and other educational institutions, we would like to work together to make it really, really attractive for students to take up career in cybersecurity.
Sure, and we have been doing a lot of initiatives and taking a lot of initiatives on that front. Probably will strengthen this further with the support from the industry and the government, and definitely we'll meet over that and discuss it further. So here, I'll come to you, Devashish, and given time, I'll just try to wrap up with this round. You talked about this volunteer nature of this cross-border collaboration, coordination, what's happening. Even sometimes it's fragmented as well, voluntary as well as fragmented. What would it take to move forward with more structured, real-time, interoperable information sharing mechanism across operators or the region, which is many times not happening?
So I'll keep brevity in mind. So to move from fragmented approach to a coordinated approach, several things are needed, and I'll just touch on them. I spoke about standardization, which was on Open APIs, which is an initiative of GSMA, the Open Gateway. And when we talk about standardization, we are talking about common data models, APIs, so that threat intelligence can be shared and understood consistently across the regions, which has different regulatory constraints, right? Then we can also we talk about the trusted frameworks for data sharing. I briefly spoke about the baseline security principles, and so that everyone can align to them, not just impose uniformity. The other thing is, since I started talking about telecom being the bedrock of connectivity and the digital infrastructure, the automation and the integration of AI tools which are happening inside the network itself is helping a lot, where we coordinate with the NEPs as well. Other things is the flexibility in implementation, depending on the market maturity. Right. I said that I'll talk about one more initiative of GSMA, which is the ACAST, which is the Asia Pacific cross-sector anti-scam initiative, which we started last year, right, is focused on, all the, APAC countries. There are several initiatives which have started on data exchange POCs. I'll not name them because, the agreement which they have signed with, GSMA allows them to start talking about it rather than we do it. But, briefly, Philippines, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, Hong Kong, there are projects which are happening using the GSMA Open Gateway, and the ACAST initiative. I spoke about best practice sharing and capacity building. And as Sir spoke about, identifying, the typical fraud signals, if we can all collaborate. I think my last line on this will be, I think the collaboration, pipe has been laid down. What we need is just a little bit of speed and flow.
Correct. Just one layer of complexity, what I see is capacity asymmetry among the telecom providers and sometimes at the national level as well. So many of those things you talked about, probably that's going to bridge that gap as well. But any specific thing that you think we should be doing to enable that part, because that's opening a lot of scope for fraudsters to leverage.
In India, I think, we have a very good regulator, who is very heavily engaged, with industry players, with operators, with other, ecosystem players. So we don't need to, worry about the market maturity, which I spoke about in the other APAC countries. On the Open Gateway initiative, some 80% of the operators have already signed up, in the last, 18 months. So that is also, pretty well aligned with the global initiative. I think we are in a good, shape to achieve the goals of Digital India.
We all have to come together and enable that.
Absolutely. And we spoke about that, and this theme has come up in so many discussions today that, not one party can do this, on its own.
Perfect. So here, Aditi, I'll come to you as the final word on this. Google working on the regional ecosystem level, but at the same time, you have a bird eye view and the very comprehensive view at the global level as well. Where do you see those gaps and how can we find that enablement? And especially like typically if I say this local ecosystem reality along with the global experience that you have already seen, how can we bring it in place?
Right. That's a...
You can pick up some of the case studies or probably...
Okay. Then
some
give me
examples,
3 minutes. Yeah. All right, I'll try to speak fast. See, we have really learned a lot. We're a global company, so then some of our experiences, and we work very closely with the government, right? So the complaints or like the challenges that they highlight, even the communities that they suffer, right? They tend to be local, but then a lot of these experiences we tend to cut across regions. For example, like some really good examples we can use. One can be a homegrown example itself. Recently, we launched verified app labeling in partnership with SEBI, the Securities Exchange Board of India. It's a stock market regulator. It was observed that a lot of people are misled they're basically misled by certain opinions by so-called stockbrokers. Now, basically, to give an opinion on or advice on stock investments, you have to pass the SEBI's exam, right? But not all are qualified to do that, and a lot of retail investment boom that we are seeing in India right now is quite dangerous. So SEBI had approached us and they asked us if we could help with that. So if you recall in my previous round, I said that there are 3 ways to look at to protect users. One is at the information level. You prevent bad information from even touching the user. Second can be if it does penetrate into the system, then you intervene. And third could be, okay, fine. Once now harm has been done, how do you mitigate it? But we always endeavor to do it at the first level itself. That is, let's break down the interaction of bad information with the user. In this case, so with SEBI, we collaborated, and then we worked for about a year. It was a long exercise. Although what the user ended up seeing is a label of a verified label of a stockbroking app on Google Play Store. But we know how much engineering and product work goes into that. And India is the first country where it's rolled out now, and it's also a global issue. It's not just an Indian issue. So from India, we're going to take it abroad. Another example quickly would be that of this really amazing case study that Dave also highlighted, of stolen phones. In Brazil, we noticed that a lot of people their phones are snatched. Once the phones are snatched, so, thieves find a way of keeping the phones unlocked, and then they get into the phone and do all kinds of, fraudulent transactions. So again, with, taking that from Brazil and then expanding it globally, we were able to implement it in a way that not only now the phone detects a snatch, but there are lots of other ways to lock it remotely. You're able to, shut it down, and there are a lot of other things, a lot of amazing, brilliant features into it. I won't bore you with that. That's another one. The third one was a very interesting one on side loading itself, where we worked very closely with the, we actually, so we come to you also on that, on side loading, right? Initially, what we started doing as a company, we started working with Singapore as well as Brazil, and we also, intimated Indian government also about it, is that why don't we do a small pilot on a certain side loading, project that we had introduced. So in this way, we could roll out a very successful pilot in starting with Brazil, Thailand, Singapore, where we could assure people that whatever we are deploying on ground is going to work. It has confidence of the government also, and people are going to be kept secure. So it's like a sandbox approach for your product rollouts. Those are three really good case studies I thought I could share with you. But overall, because this last round, I would just like to state is that internationally also, what we are really looking at is that two ways in which. One is that you can always address a problem through policy framework. That is when you have lots of companies that get together and ideate. It's a policy formulation state, which is why you would have noticed that we recently signed a UN accord with 11 other companies, right? It's on frauds and scams. It's basically essentially companies coming together and working at a thought level. Second is, of course, then how do you deploy it? One example of that would be through a tool that we've been working on is through Global Signal Exchange, and of course now with GSMA also. Through Global Signal Exchange is again like, DNS Research Foundation and GASA. They came together and now we've exchanged over 1 billion signals. These are basically URLs or any kind of bad signals that are coming from different products across from different companies. Products could be shopping tools, it could be photo, whatever, all kinds of tools. And we share it with over 100 organizations. So you see how it's working. It's all interconnected. You have a policy, you have people thinking about what to do, and then you have a solution to deploy it through tools. So this is broadly how we think about it, and there's a lot more. Like if you want to talk, we can talk endlessly about it. True. But that's about it. Thank you.
Sure, thanks Aditi. And here, to summarize, I can only say that the collaboration and the coordination is highly required. So we have seen like we have a strong system, especially in the Indian context, if we say we have a strong system like I4C here in place. At the government level, we have GSMA kind of entities enabling the industry participation. We have civil society. We have platform providers who are enabling and taking law out of initiatives. A lot of public-private partnerships are enabling. So the next frontier could be enabling this and taking this kind of collaboration and coordination to the next level, where we can fast pace those outcome of those collaborations, whether in terms of getting the information, sharing that information and curbing that fraud happening, or beyond that as well. After the 3 rings, I think I should stop here. So again, I'll thank all the panelists. It was amazing. I think under I4C as well, a lot of initiatives, under MHA, a lot of initiatives are being undertaken. Probably offline, we can discuss it in further. But again, thank you for being here, and thanks for your contribution. Thank you.